Georgia or Florida? The Peach State or the Sunshine State? Pine trees or palm trees? We've recently had a lot of clients looking to move to the Southeast, and they were deciding between Florida and Georgia. So how do these two states compare? Let's start with the weather. One of the things that draws people to the South is the milder climate. Both Georgia and Florida enjoy warmer weather for sure, and both have higher humidity levels, with Florida just edging out Georgia with the fourth highest humidity in the US. But there are some differences. Hurricanes. That's something we don't experience in Georgia. Florida ended 2022 with 14 tropical systems that included 8 hurricanes, with 2 major hurricanes, Fiona and Ian. Both states have a lot of thunderstorms. Now this surprised me. In fact, Florida has the most and longest of any in the country, but they're a little different than the thunderstorms we have in Georgia. It's not unusual for high winds and hail to accompany a Georgia thunderstorm. Just talk to the roofers. Now, we do get tornadoes in Georgia, but we don't even make the top 10 list for this. But you know who does? Florida, 3rd highest for tornadoes each year. The biggest difference is that we actually have 4 seasons in Georgia, which is one of the many factors that we found in people deciding to move to Georgia over Florida. Winters are typically mild in Georgia, but we do have the colder temperatures, and you will have to turn your heater on at least for a little while. And we do get snow once in a while, especially in the North Georgia mountains. It's always fun to see the snow flurries. We all get excited, and it's even more entertaining to watch everyone running to the grocery store to stock up for the big winter storm. Spring's usually very nice, with a period March to April where everything around you in Georgia is covered in yellow, and a lot of folks are sneezing and carrying Kleenex because the Georgia pollen is real. You can write your name in the car. Summer's hot and humid, a lot like Florida, but then you get the relief of fall that you don't get in Florida, typically starting in late September. So if you really like to experience the difference in seasons, Georgia might be more appealing. Now let's talk cost of living. Everyone is feeling the effects of inflation, regardless of where you live right now. And the cost of living for Florida and Georgia for 2022 are kind of neck and neck, with Georgia coming out slightly lower. But there's a few differences here again. Florida doesn't have state income tax, and Georgia does. But if you talk to people moving from Florida, the property tax tends to be a little higher in Florida than in Georgia. The biggest area that seems to be a point of discussion with our clients is insurance. Florida is becoming increasingly more expensive with insurance, and in most cases, flood insurance isn't even an option in Florida, which makes it very expensive. Are there properties in Georgia where it might be necessary to purchase flood insurance? Yeah, there are, but it's more the exception than the rule. Housing. When talking about the prices of housing, you've got to look at what you're comparing. A gorgeous oceanfront house on the white sandy Florida beaches is going to be a lot more than a house in central Georgia. But a home in North or South Metro Atlanta area is going to likely cost you more than a central Florida home. Styles of homes, because that's one thing that a lot of people notice a big difference. Let's talk. Clients moving to the area notice that there's a lot more 2 stories, and especially 2 stories on a basement versus a 1-story or a ranch plan that you find in Florida. And I think one of the things people love is the opportunity to purchase a home with basement, as you really don't have those in Florida. We have a lot more brick and concrete board siding in Georgia, whereas in Florida you have a lot of stucco and concrete made to withstand the extreme weather conditions that you have in Florida. You will see stucco in Georgia, but most of those homes were built in the late 80s and early 90s when stucco was more of a popular style. The topography of Georgia and Florida are very different. If you love the hot weather and time on the beach rather than just going for a fun vacation, Florida is loaded with sandy beaches, and the terrain is typically flatter and in some areas swampier. While we are limited to beaches as you move into Georgia, especially toward Atlanta and north of Atlanta, you have hillier terrain and the beautiful Georgia mountains. As diverse as the terrain is between the 2 states, so is the wildlife. Floridians are used to alligators, or not so much. And we're not just talking the Florida gators. Go dogs. Surprisingly, there's also tons of iguanas and lizards. Now we do have our share of lizards. You won't find many iguanas or alligators. You will, however, find a ton of deer. In fact, if someone slows down in front of you in Georgia for no apparent reason, it might be that a deer just ran out in front of them. And where there's one deer, there's usually more. Both states have mosquitoes. Unfortunately, that's in common as they love the warmer weather climate. And Georgia's season is probably a little shorter from March to October because we have the cooler weather, which does give us a bit of a break. So there you have it. 2 great southern states, but very different. If you love the beaches and lots of touristy types of things to do, Florida may be one to explore more. If you love a change in seasons and love to go to the beach, but also love to go hiking in the mountains or apple picking in the fall, Georgia may be right for you. So reach out. If you're looking to move to Georgia in a week or a year, doesn't matter. We've got agents all over the state of Georgia that we can connect you with. And if you want more info on Florida, but you don't know where to begin, we've got you covered there too. Our information's below. You can call, text, or email us. We would love to hear from you.